In the vast world of true crime, there are stories that haunt you, stories that linger long after the video ends. But among all of them, one name stands alone, a name whispered with disbelief, anger, and fear. Pedro Alonso Lopez, the man the world calls the monster of the Andes, a killer whose crimes stretched across countries, across borders, across years of silence, and whose confession was so enormous, so overwhelming, that even experienced detectives refused to believe it at first.
Pedro Lopez entered the world in 1948 in Tolima, Colombia, a region already scarred by violence and poverty. His family lived on the edge of survival. His mother, overwhelmed and volatile, treated him with little affection. Home was not a safe place. Home was where fear lived. By the time he was pushed onto the streets, he was still just a child, but already carrying a lifetime of trauma. Bogotá's slums became his new world, a world ruled by hunger, gangs, and desperation. There, he learned two things: how to disappear and how to stop trusting anyone. When he was 8, a stranger lured him away. The man held him for days before Lopez escaped. To investigators, Lopez would later describe that event not with panic, but with a disturbing calmness, as if he had accepted that the world was built on cruelty. As a teenager, Lopez survived through theft, small scams, and drifting between cities. Eventually, he was caught and sent to prison, a place brutal even by South American standards of the time. Prison was supposed to punish him. Instead, it changed him permanently. Lopez later said a single moment inside those walls transformed him. He never explained the details publicly, but investigators believe this was the moment when he stopped thinking like a victim and began thinking like a predator. When he was released, he didn't return home. Instead, he began to move, traveling across Colombia, into Peru, and later Ecuador. Always drifting, always watching, waiting for opportunities. Communities in remote Andean regions had little police presence. Children walked alone along rural roads at dawn. Families lived with more worries than they could count. And to Lopez, these places looked like hunting grounds.
By the early 1970s, something quiet and terrifying spread through the Andes. Young girls began disappearing. Not one or two, but dozens, then hundreds. Families reported the missing children, but authorities rarely listened. Some cases were ignored due to poverty. Others were dismissed as runaways. And in many remote indigenous villages, police simply never came. This silence gave Lopez everything he needed. He moved between villages unnoticed. He blended into crowds. Police records later described him as unremarkable, a face no one would remember. Lopez would watch children on their morning routines, markets, dusty roads, small fields by the mountains. He used kindness, a soft voice, small gestures of trust, and then he disappeared with them, without noise, without struggle, without any witnesses. Entire communities lived in fear, but had no answers. It was as if the Andes themselves were swallowing their children.
Everything changed in 1980. In a crowded market in the Ecuadorian town of Ambato, vendors saw a man trying to lead a young girl away. This time, people reacted. They surrounded him. They stopped him. They held him until police arrived. Some merchants later admitted they were ready to take justice into their own hands. but the police took him into custody just in time. At the station, officers expected to process a simple kidnapping case, but when they questioned him, Lopez didn't deny anything. Instead, he began talking, calmly, clearly, as if discussing something ordinary. What he confessed shocked every person in that room. Pedro Lopez said he had killed more than 300 girls across Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador. He listed regions, villages, mountains. He described patterns and timelines. Investigators didn't believe him. No one could. But then Lopez offered proof. He agreed to guide police into remote Andean areas, places where bodies had been buried and forgotten. For days, officers followed him through harsh terrain, and everywhere he pointed, they found exactly what he described. One officer later recalled it was like he carried a map in his mind, a map of horrors no one should ever see. By the end of the investigation, authorities confirmed over 100 cases. Many more were suspected. The truth is, the real number may never be known.
In 1980, Ecuador sentenced Lopez to 16 years, the harshest punishment their law allowed at the time. 16 years for the lives of hundreds. Inside prison, he behaved flawlessly. He helped staff. He stayed quiet. He caused no trouble. Some guards said he was polite, an unsettling detail that investigators still mention today. In 1994, for good behavior, he was released early. A man responsible for one of the worst-known killing sprees in history was allowed to walk free. Colombia arrested him again, but the system once more fell apart. He was eventually transferred to a psychiatric hospital and later released. No one monitored him. No one followed him. He left quietly and then vanished.
After 2002, Pedro Lopez disappeared from every official record. Police don't know where he went. Some believe he returned to remote areas. Others think he changed his identity. A few investigators are convinced he continued killing. There is no proof, no sightings, only silence. Today, he exists like a ghost, a man who walked through 3 nations, left devastation behind, and then slipped into obscurity. Pedro Lopez remains one of the most terrifying reminders that evil can move quietly, that danger can hide in plain sight, that entire communities can scream and still go unheard. His story is not just about crime. It is about how neglect, poverty, and silence allowed a monster to grow and then to disappear. The Andes hold countless secrets, but the darkest one may be the man who once walked among them and vanished without a trace.